And ahead of the summit, we want to bring in Andrij Dobriansky with the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America. He's also chair of UN Affairs for the Ukrainian World Congress. Andrij, appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you so much for having us on.
I can only imagine for many Ukrainians, this upcoming meeting between Trump and Putin must feel deeply personal. What was your initial reaction to the summit? And is there fear that Ukraine may be left out of its own future?
Well, don't forget, this isn't the first time that we heard that there might be a sit-down between Putin and President Trump. This actually was proposed a couple of months ago when a coalition of the willing, a coalition of European allies decided to ratchet up sanctions against Russia. And what President Putin did, he called a late-night press conference, and he said he's willing to meet with President Zelensky. President Trump jumped on board and said he might show up. And what happened at the Istanbul proposed negotiation is that neither Putin nor his Ministry of Foreign Affairs nobody came at a high level to negotiate, even though Marco Rubio was there, even though America was ready, as well as President Zelensky ready to speak in Istanbul. So this is why we're not really foreseeing that President Putin, he'll probably chicken out again. He's very afraid of leaving his country. But if it were to happen, it would be a shock to Ukrainian Americans, specifically welcoming a war criminal. He is wanted by the International Criminal Court for all the thousands of children he's stolen from Ukraine.
Do you think there's a good chance that he's not going to show up at all in 5 days? Is that right?
Well, he has yet to show up for an international negotiation. Not only did he skip out on the proposed meeting in Istanbul, he skipped out on meetings with BRICS leaders and other summits throughout the year. So it's only a travel to China so far that he has felt comfortable with since he began this war.
President Zelensky has been really clear about this, that Ukraine will not be trading land for peace. If he is not at the table, what are the risks that that line could soften?
Well, I think the number one thing that people talk about is the 1938 Munich conference. Czechoslovakia was not invited to be at that Munich conference. And what happened was Neville Chamberlain negotiated on behalf of Europe to cede territory that wasn't his to a foreign adversary, an autocrat, the fascist leader Hitler. And the fact that that was happening without the participation of a country like Czechoslovakia reminds people, even to this day, that we cannot allow big powers to make the decision about where national borders lie. The people and the countries that are most concerned about this are the entire continent of Africa. They have made very clear at the United Nations that they did not draw their borders. Many of their borders were drawn by imperial empires. But if they were to start fighting amongst which border should be, depending on the situation on the ground today, it would throw the entire continent into 100 years of war. This is why we must respect Ukraine's territorial sovereignty.
What specific outcome would you consider a win for Ukraine in this summit?
Well, I think more than anything, this should be a summit about getting to a ceasefire. This is something that President Trump has been asking President Putin since March, since Ukraine declared a unilateral ceasefire for 30 days. Okay, Ukraine is in, and President Trump has not been able to do that. One other thing I would expect is, reading The Art of the Deal, I would expect President Trump to ratchet up sanctions and different actions right before the meeting, throw Putin off guard, make sure that he walks into the room, as The Art of the Deal says, walk into a room with maximum pressure.
If the summit ends with Russia gaining territory through force, what message does that send to democracies under threat, to authoritarian leaders who are watching this around the world?
Well, many countries are looking at this. I mentioned some countries that are worried that borders might be redrawn, but we can talk about the one other major power that is looking at Taiwan right now, and China has made it very clear, no less than within the past few months, its foreign minister saying that it is not interested in Russia losing. It did not say that Russia has to win, but it wants Russia to be involved with NATO and Ukraine and tying up Western allies so that they don't have the resources to do anything were Taiwan to be invaded. So it's not just that countries are worried about their own sovereignty, it's also the fact that other autocracies and other large armies are looking at other territory that could be taken, and then maybe in a future negotiation with America or somebody else, well, they get to keep that territory. And we can't go down that road. That's what we fought against after World War II.
I want to bring up this map again of these contested territories so we can discuss this quickly, Andrij. Is
Sure.
it Zelensky's position that not a single acre of anything we see in red, whether it is hashtagged there or hashed there or solid red, should be ceded to Russia?
Currently, the Ukrainian constitution tells President Zelensky what is the territory of Ukraine. It's not the other way around. The president of a non-autocracy listens to the constitution. And that's what the constitution says, that every part of Ukraine is Ukrainian territory. You have to listen to our Declaration of Independence. You have to listen to our constitution. And that's what the president is bound to. And it is upon all Ukrainians to make sure that not just the territory is recovered, and it is officially the state policy of the United States that the United States will do everything in its power to help Ukraine recover its occupied territories. But we want to make sure that the people, especially the children, there's been over 20,000 children kidnapped by Russia, but that doesn't even include the 1.5 million children who are living in occupied territories. We want to free those children. We want to free those people from the threat of occupation. And the occupation that goes on there is horrific in terms of violence against these people, sexual violence, mutilations. This is something that's happening on a daily basis and has been condemned roundly by over 100 nations at the United Nations.
Really appreciate your time tonight. Andrij Dobriansky, thank you so much.
Thank you.